The day I left the hospital, my doctor called. The phone rang while I was sitting in my car, keys still in the ignition. Hospital bracelet cutting into my wrist like a reminder. I hadn't earned my freedom yet. I almost didn't answer. The engine was off. The world was quiet. That dangerous, deceptive quiet that feels like safety until it isn't. I answered anyway. "Don't react," my doctor said. Her voice was too careful, too rehearsed. "But someone is using your name to obtain opioids." I stared at the steering wheel. The cracks in the leather looked like veins. "I found forged prescriptions," she continued. "Recent ones. Multiple pharmacies." My mouth went dry. "That's not possible," I said. "It came out flat, automatic." "I know your signature," she replied. "These weren't written by you. Or for you." The hospital doors slid open behind me. A couple walked out laughing. Life kept moving. It always does. Then she said the sentence that split me open. "And whatever you do, don't tell your son, Kyle." Silence swallowed the space between us. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not panic, not fear, recognition. "Why?" I asked. A pause, long enough to say everything. "Because," she said carefully, "I believe he's involved." The line went dead. I sat there breathing shallow, hands locked around the wheel like it was the only thing, anchoring me to this version of reality. Kyle, my son, the boy I raised alone after his father disappeared into addiction and excuses. The boy who sat beside my hospital bed last night, holding my hand, whispering that everything would be okay. I told myself this was a mistake. I told myself there had to be another explanation. But my body already knew. And when I drove to the pharmacy an hour later, when I stepped inside and saw who was standing at the counter, I couldn't breathe. Kyle stood with his back to me. Relaxed, confident, too comfortable for someone picking up medication that wasn't his. He laughed at something the pharmacist said. A soft, familiar laugh. The one I used to hear when he was 8 and stealing cookies from the kitchen. My chest tightened. I stayed near the entrance, half hidden behind a display of vitamins I didn't need. I watched the way he leaned forward, lowering his voice. Watched the practiced ease of someone who had done this before. The pharmacist slid a white bag across the counter. Kyle signed the pad. My signature, perfectly mimicked. I felt a strange calm wash over me. Not denial, not shock. Calculation. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't give myself away. I watched my son commit a crime using my name. And I realized this hadn't started with the prescriptions. This was just the symptom. The memory came uninvited. Kyle asking for money last year. Kyle dropping out of college. Kyle losing weight too fast, then gaining it back. Kyle insisting I list him as my emergency contact on every form. I had called it concern. I had called it responsibility. I had called it love. I left the pharmacy without being seen. In the car, I sat perfectly still, hands folded in my lap, like I was waiting for instructions from a higher authority. The betrayal didn't scream. It whispered. It whispered through every moment I'd ignored, every excuse I'd accepted, every lie I'd swallowed because the truth was unthinkable. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I felt something worse. I felt stupid. And that was when I decided this wouldn't end with a confrontation. It would end with certainty. I became quiet after that, quiet in a way that alarmed no one. Kyle noticed nothing. He never does. He's always mistaken my silence for weakness, for exhaustion, for surrender. At night, I lay awake replaying conversations, isolating words, reconstructing timelines. I requested my prescription records. I reviewed insurance statements. I cross-checked dates against Kyle's work shifts. Patterns emerged. 3 pharmacies, 2 doctors' offices, 6 months of theft, all under my name. I watched Kyle more closely. The way his hands trembled when he thought no one was looking. The way his mood shifted from charm to irritation in seconds. The way he hugged me longer when he needed something. I installed an app on my phone to track pharmacy claims. I didn't confront him when another prescription appeared. I waited. I followed him one afternoon. Kept my distance. Watched him enter a clinic I had never visited. He walked out with a prescription pad folded into his pocket. That night I searched his room. I found copies of my ID, my insurance card, a practice sheet with my signature repeated over and over. He had rehearsed being me. I sat on his bed holding the papers, my pulse slow and steady. This wasn't desperation. This was planning. I realized something then that settled everything into place. Kyle didn't just betray me. He relied on the belief that I would never turn on him, that I would protect him, that I would choose motherhood over truth. I began documenting everything. Photos, dates, receipts. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer. I didn't tell Kyle. I didn't change my behavior. I let him believe he was winning. And when the final prescription hit the system, when the one that crossed the felony threshold appeared, I knew it was time. I waited until dinner. I cooked his favorite meal, watched him eat, watched him relax. Afterward, I placed a folder on the table between us. He frowned. "What's that?" "Open it," I said. He did. The color drained from his face slowly, like a dimmer switch being turned down. Copies of prescriptions, pharmacy records, surveillance timestamps, my signature, his handwriting beside it. He laughed once. A brittle sound. "You don't understand," he said. I was going to stop. I tilted my head. "You already did," I replied. The last prescription triggered an investigation. Silence. His breathing changed. They're coming for you," I added calmly. "But I gave them everything." He stood up abruptly. "You reported me?" I reported the truth. His hands shook. "I'm your son." "Yes," I said. "And you used that." Tears spilled from his eyes. "Real ones, desperate ones. I needed it," he whispered. "You were always strong, I thought." "You thought I'd disappear for you," I finished. He collapsed into the chair. I stayed standing, cold. The officers arrived the next morning. Kyle didn't look at me as they handcuffed him. He looked at the floor, as if the ground had betrayed him too. I handed over the final piece of evidence, the recording from the pharmacy, the forged ID. The officer nodded, professional, detached. Just like me. Kyle turned once, eyes wild. "You didn't have to do this." I met his gaze. "I did," I said. "For both of us." They led him away. The door closed. The house exhaled. I sat down at the kitchen table alone, hands steady. I felt no triumph, only relief, the kind that comes when the truth finally has somewhere to land. I sold the house 2 months later, changed my number, moved somewhere quiet. People ask about my son sometimes. I tell them he made choices, and so did I. At night, I sleep without listening for footsteps, without waiting for lies. I am not a mother in the way I used to be. I am something else now, clear. And the last thing Kyle ever stole from me, my silence, he will never get back.